Hello guys, in this video we are gonna code prime number finder. So let's head to our HTML and then we are gonna create input. Type will be text and then let's give it an ID of input 1. So we also are gonna have button. ID is button 1 and button should say submit. Cool. Now let's access those values from Javascript. So we are gonna say document dot get element by ID input 1, and then we should also want a variable to store this. So we are gonna say let's say const input equals to this thing. Similarly, const button equals to document dot get element by ID button 1. Cool. Now we want to get inputs when we click this submit. So what we are gonna do is we are gonna have an onClick attribute. OnClick equals to this will be a function. And what will it be? We are gonna take input dot value, but we also need to store this value, right? So in order to store this value, I'm gonna create a variable in here, like let number equals to, let's say, 0 in the beginning, and we are going to change that value to be input dot value. I didn't create my value in here because if I did, then I wouldn't be able to access that value outside this parenthesis, this curly braces. So that's why I declared and assigned a number in here. Okay. Now we should also make this value a input integer, right? Because when you use this input, it will take text, but we want numbers, so let's convert it to numbers. So value equals to, let's say, number value. Okay, now we converted our value to be a number and we reassigned it to value itself. So now value is, oh, I think I made a typo. This should be number, sorry. This should be number, not value. Yeah, now it works perfectly. Yeah. We take input dot value and assign it to number. Then we reassign number to be itself, but converted to an integer, to a number. Now, what are we gonna do? We should have a main function, right? So let's write our function check for prime, let's say. This will take a number, right, as an argument. Now, how are we gonna check whether a number is a prime or not? We are gonna use for loop I equals 2. We are starting I from 2 because 2 is the smallest prime number. I is less than number and I plus plus. So this is the most basic way of finding a prime number. And then what are we gonna do? We are gonna say if number divided by I results in a remainder of 0, meaning I divides number perfectly fine, then that means that our number is not a prime. So we are gonna say console.log number is not a prime number. Now we found that number is not prime, so there's no need to iterate over this for loop. That's why I'm gonna use break. Yeah, so that we break out of this for loop, and else we don't do anything. So I'm not adding an else statement. So what if we successfully complete this for loop without breaking out? Like, what if we entered 7. We never entered this if statement. We never printed this number is not a prime number, which in our case 7. What are we gonna do? Then what we are gonna do is outside this for loop, right? Oops, right here, we are gonna say console.log number is a prime number. Okay, now it should work perfectly fine. Yep. And let's see, what are we gonna do? Now we take our values, we check whether that's a prime, but we never call for this check for prime function. So what we actually need to do is we should have another button. So let's say button which will say check. So when you click this button, it will check whether that number is a prime number. So let's give it an idea of button 2. And then again, let's do the same const check button equals document.getElement by ID button 2. And we should also have an onClick attribute for this button 2. That onClick. This onClick runs whenever we click this button. Remember, and let's use. Oops, this should be check button. Let's use arrow functions. Oops, we should put equal to parentheses this stuff. So this is an arrow function. This is the same thing as writing function, but without using the keyword function. Okay, now what are we gonna have inside? We are gonna run check for prime function, and what are we gonna pass? We are gonna pass our number. We pass this into this check for prime, then we see whether there's a prime number or not, and everything should now work perfectly fine. Let's enter, for example, 7. So we submit our button and we check it. 7 is a prime number. Cool. Well, I just realized that we don't actually need check button. Well, let's actually delete it. Why I thought of it. We instead of like having a check button, what we can do is we can just add check for prime inside this onClick attribute. Like, why do we have another separate button for check? And we are gonna pass number. Yep, this should also work fine. So again, let's enter 7. 7 is a prime number. Let's enter 10. 10 is not a prime number. 10 is a prime number. Oops, we made a mistake. We printed these out twice, like not a prime number and a prime number. The reason is because we break out of this for loop, but we still print this console.log. So what we need to do is we need to return instead of breaking. So let's delete break and let's return 0. So return 0 means we end this function. We don't want it to continue. Remember, when we see return, we immediately stop. I did put 0 because I just felt like it. You can put whatever you want. And let's also put return 0 at the end of this function, because putting return in one side and not other will feel weird. Like putting return in all cases would be just a better practice. Let's enter 7. 7 is a prime number. 10 is not a prime number. We didn't print 10 is a prime number because we return. We no longer continue this function. Let's say random numbers is not a prime number, like 767. Well, what about this? Not a prime number. Oh, interesting. And I just am a little bit curious about what this number is divided by. So let's also print out console.log I divides number. So let's enter 767 and see. Oh, 13 divides this. Wow. 15, 3 divides 15, so it's not a prime. Let's enter random number. Oops, 3 divides this thing. Wow. Cool. So this is the most basic way of finding a prime number. Of course, this can be developed. Again, this is the most basic one. So if you have any question, please leave a comment and have a great day.